Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Eagle, number 1 through 6. This is the first of a two-parter. We're going to be looking at all the first 12 issues. There was more issues of Eagle, but I remember getting rid of them because I didn't like them. And to be honest, rereading these last night, these first 6 issues, it's not the best comic. This is definitely one of the videos I'm making that is fueled by nostalgia. And I bought these comics off the racks in 1986. I'm smack dab in the middle of the black and white comics explosion. That's when I used to go to the comic store every week. And there's a lot of crap being put out then, but some good stuff. And actually some even great stuff. But then there was a lot of fair to middling stuff that was at least more interesting than what Marvel and DC were putting out. So it was kind of an exciting time as a comic book fan if you didn't just want to read Iron Man every month or Green Lantern. And you never knew what you were going to find at the comic store. Every week there was some weird new comic company springing up. And this was one of them, Crystal Comics, formed by 2 artists who worked for Comico. They did the Robotech titles. I'm talking about Neil Vokes and Rich Rankin. And they just went off on their own and tried to make it. And like many of these companies, they didn't. It was kind of interesting reading all the editorial pages and the back matter. I was kind of like, I just really felt for these guys. I was like, oh yeah, I want you guys to succeed so bad. This is so great that you're starting your own little company. But of course I knew the outcome. So it's a little melancholy and sad. Like, I mean, these guys, I'm sure both had, well, I know Neil Vokes continued to have a career, and I think Rich Rankin did too. But, you know, it's different than having your own little baby and trying to make it work. But they had a good go of it. I think they made it up to issue number 18. They had another title, but yeah, once the crash happened and the black and white explosion blew up and imploded, they couldn't survive. Really like this cover. Just so simple. Obviously very manga inspired. And this is penciled by Neil Vokes, inked by Rich Rankin, who they do all the art in all these issues. This is colored by Matt Wagner, by the way, which it's really nice. It's a really nice blue going on there. So number 1 here, we start off. So we're in this futuristic city, and we see this guy. He's on the run. This story is called Night of 1,000 Ninjas. So like I said, Neil Vokes or Rankin on the art, they created the character. They got this guy, Jack Herman, who I believe was at Comico too. They got him to script. And letters by Gary Fields, who did comics for Fantagraphics and other companies. So just a funny title. Night of 1,000 Ninjas. So this dude's on the run. And his name's Colt. And he's kind of freaking out. He knows he's done for. Because he knows these ninjas are on his tail and he doesn't stand a chance. They run him through with the sword. Well, one of the ninjas does. He's a detective, by the way. I should have mentioned that. So now we cut away to this inspector, this guy, I'll get his name in a second, and his assistant, this big-looking guy, who we'll find out later on there's a reason why he looks so odd. It's not just bad drawing, or he doesn't have that Rondo Hatton disease. There's actually a real reason in this futuristic world. His name's Devlin, by the way, the big guy. And this lieutenant is named Lieutenant Matthews. So they're looking at this dead body of Colt. And Eagle walks in, our hero. Now, Eagle is pretty much just pure 100% cool on 2 legs. It's just every way they draw him, he's just a super cool guy. And as you can see, very manga inspired. He looks like a manga character. So basically in this city, Eagle is kind of like a vigilante, hero for hire type. And of course the cops don't like him. but they also they respect his skills. They know that he's pretty fucking kick-ass. So they kind of put up with him because he's always on the side of the angels. He's usually doing the right thing. So I guess there's this place called Benson Biolab, and the cops are supposed to be protecting it. I guess they're getting a big shipment. They're worried about someone attacking, and that's exactly what happens. And so now we meet Wolfgar, this character here, and his number one, his main lieutenant is Daedalus. This helmet is so goofy. It's almost like Mobius designed it, but like on his worst day, when maybe he had the avian bird flu or something. So now Eagle goes to the morgue, and we realize that Eagle has like magic powers. He goes to that guy, the corpse of Colt, that guy we saw on the first page, and he basically can read Colt's last thoughts, read his dead brain. And I guess Colt, wanted to make a name for himself. He heard about this thing going down, this major crime, and he was gonna, take it on all by himself to make a name for his private detective agency. This is a really interesting effect I've never seen before. I don't know what they're doing there, but kind of adds to the little, like, oh, he's in another realm or something. As you can see, this art is not very good, and like even the eagle, it just looks like they traced a manga character. But I gotta say, I just think he looks so cool. Always wearing his like cool long jacket and his tie. So now we see this guy's memories. How he found out about this ninja clan. And, he was going to stop their scheme. But, of course, he was killed. Shit like this, I was told sucker for. So, basically, Eagle, he's like a total amalgam of two of my favorite Marvel characters. So, he's like Doctor Strange. You can see by this panel, it's very Doctor Strangey. And we haven't really seen his fighting prowess yet. We're about to. But he's also like Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, who I loved too. So I just thought that was such a simple, elegant, cool idea. What if you had a guy like Doctor Strange mixed with Shang-Chi? So now Eagle's going to confront these ninjas. They're led by a guy named Lord Kagami. This guy. He's got one of those like Japanese demon masks on. And he dives in through the skylight of their headquarters. And this is you had to have a 2-page spread like this in a comic from 1986. Look, it's so funny to me how, like, it doesn't look like he's cheating. But he just draws the first row of ninjas, and then it's all black, and their swords poking out. So it kind of works in a weird way, but when you actually think about it, it's like, oh, come on, you guys. You just didn't want to draw those ninjas. But look how kick-ass Eagle looks. And now we get some fun martial arts action going on. Eagle with a sword, fighting all these ninjas with various crazy weapons, tridents, sais, bow staffs, everything, swords, and constantly with the speed lines. These guys were really into manga, or at least the trappings of it. So just more fight scenes. It's pretty decent fight choreography. It's easy to follow. Excuse me. But then Wakaru, who's basically like the number one ninja, right under Lord Kagami, Eagle's killed all the other ninjas, and now it's a showdown. And Wakora is pretty damn good. And so Eagle throws his sword right in Kagami, and to no effect. It goes right through him. We realize Kagami's probably could be a real demon. But Eagle throws this thing onto Lord Kagami. And he says, as he's basically he's on fire. He says, "You may have killed Lord Kagami, but you haven't destroyed me." So I guess there's some spirit that will possess other people, maybe. We'll see in the future. Here's the little editorial page. What's going to be the letter page, but they just interview Neil and Rich. We have a nice pinup by Matt Wagner and Rich Rankin. Kind of interesting. This is Reggie Byers. This guy was so bad, but he had a comic called Shuriken during the black and white explosion that did pretty well. It was luckily he came out early on in the explosion when anything black and white would sell. But he was putting out the kind of shit that basically ruined the black and white explosion, because they were just flooding the market with shit. But I mean, to be honest, I've never read his comics, but I've seen his art in ads, and it just looks like really bad fanzine art. But it was weird that at the time he was kind of a name. And this guy, Chris Kalnick, pretty damn good artist. I've never heard of him before. Surprising, I've never seen him. Maybe he was so good he just went into graphic design and make money, That would make sense. Have a nice little back cover pinup of a lot of the major characters. Number 2. So from now on, all the covers are going to be colored by Mark Wheatley. You might know him from that comic Mars. Well, he did tons of other stuff, over the years. So we start off at the Tanjiro Towers. And we see these 2 security guards, kibitzing, and these 3 kind of high-tech assassins breaking through the windows. They kill the security guards. That looks very John Byrne-y. In fact, it looks like John Byrne, but also how John Byrne would draw as well. So these 3 assassins have weird, big fat helmets on. And basically they're there to place an explosive. A time bomb. This one's called City of Fear. So we see Lieutenant Matthews and what's-his-face, the big lug, and they're talking to the mayor. The mayor is a total corrupt, kingpin type. And now we also meet, what's her name? Shivia. I believe it's pronounced that, S-I-V-I-A. Shivia? I forgot to mention the mayor's name is Jason Thorne. And now Shivia comes in. She's a councilwoman. It seems like she's actually a good politician. She actually, gives a shit. And she's kind of giving the mayor shit for not doing his job right. So basically, this crime lord, Acacia, that's this lady. She set that bomb, and I guess it's going to release a poison gas and kill everyone in the city, or a lot of people. And she's made a huge ransom demand. So that's why these guys are all having a parlay. They're trying to, there's not enough money to pay them off, but they know that they have to, because there's no way they're going to get that bomb before it goes off. But Shivia says, "I've heard of this man named Eagle. He would do it for a lot less. He would get that bomb for a lot less than $300 million, which is what Acacia's asking for." Of course, the cops and the mayor are like, "But Eagle's a vigilante, a murderer, a criminal." So she goes over their heads. And she basically finds one of Eagle's cards. And Eagle shows up at her office. And he basically offers, he doesn't want money. He's a hero. He just says, yeah, I'll take care of this. But he does say, he says, in return, though, you have to have dinner with me. So we realize there's some kind of connection here. I love the way Eagle dresses like as a kind of a dandy, a Victorian fop dandy. But it looks so cool on him. So now we see Wolfgar. And Wolfgar is training his men. And when he trains his men, like if you lose, he kills you. Which is pretty stupid. Because these are your henchmen. You need them. That's why you're training them. And Acacia shows up. We realize Acacia's in charge. And Acacia and Wolfgar used to be a thing. And now Acacia's got this new guy she's taken on as a lover. His name's Max. Look how manga that is right there. I've seen that face before. And so there's a little triangle going on. And Acacia basically chastises him for for killing the henchmen. And obviously, we can tell Wolfgar's still in love with her and still wants her back. He's even verbal about it. He's not shy about it. As you can probably tell by my recounting of this story, the writing is not very good. It's not bad. I mean, it's whatever. It's no worse than any dumb superhero comic at the time. But, yeah, it's just, it's moving the story along. But I do like how these characters are a little interesting to me. They're more interesting than they have to be, than they could have been. And now we're introduced to Alaric. And Alaric is Wolfgar's son. And I like this little dynamic here, how Wolfgar is such a evil bastard, just ruthless and brutal. But he really loves his son. And his son is kind of almost androgynous. He's a very sensitive. He's skilled. He's very skilled. But in being an acrobat, he doesn't want to kill anyone. He's just kind of a very sweet kid. And it is interesting how this guy just loves his son. A lot of comics would probably make it like, oh, you pansy, you got to toughen up. That we've seen that so many times. The tough father who doesn't like his sensitive son. But he adores his son. I love this. He still wants him to, follow his brutal ways, though, and train him to be a murderer. And so now Eagle confronts those 3 assassins we saw earlier. Well, I'm sorry, one of them is him without his helmet. And this woman is there, like an innocent bystander. And he's trying to protect her. He's like, miss, run. I'll take care of this guy. Here we have some manga-inspired panels. And he gets in the elevator with her. He's going to he's going to show her how to get out of there. It turns out she's one of those assassins. She takes off her jacket and she attacks Eagle in the elevator. I think her name's Blade or something like that. She looks like an 8-year-old girl, her face. But I guess that's part of manga art. So he defeats her, and then he climbs out of the elevator. It's jammed. So now we see Lieutenant Matthews and whatever his name is, Devlin, and the councilwoman, Shivia. And they're all basically just like, yeah, that bomb's going to go off any moment. We're probably all doomed. When Eagle gets to the roof, the 3rd assassin attacks him. And we get a little more action. And Eagle looks at the bomb, 20 seconds left. And we realize that Eagle, for all of his skills with martial arts and with sorcery, he knows nothing about mechanics or technology. So he just watches as the clock ticks down. And what a cliffhanger we have there. More letter pages. Or letter page. This is really nice. They got Tim Truman to do a really nice little pinup. I just love the black and white. So much use of shadow. That's a really nice pinup. And this is Mark Kemple, Mark Wheatley's partner on Mars, and also did many comics in the 80s, 90s, and noughts even. Pretty nice. Very Doctor Strangey. And I think that's it for this issue, except for the back cover of Acacia. She's kind of hot, even though her hair is so weird. Look at that widow's peak she's got going on. That's bizarre. I don't think any woman's had a hairline like that in reality. Issue number 3. And the bomb has gone off. The news is talking about it. Apparently, there was no poison in it. It was a distraction. We see the TV screen. You know, that was huge in the 80s. Every comic had to have, hey, we'll move the story along by showing you the news on little TV screens. And we see the lieutenant and Devlin. And we also meet this reporter, Craig Masters, who we'll see throughout the comic. He kind of has a thing for Shivya as well as Eagle. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Both Eagle and him kind of have a thing for Shivya. So Eagle's not dead. He basically transported himself. He can teleport. But he was so, obviously distracted because he thought he was going to die. He actually teleported into the ground. He wasn't, he couldn't concentrate fully. So he's like, I'm going to die here. I got to chop off the arm. I don't even have my sword. But then we find out Eagle's secret. This orb comes out of him. And he says, the orb, my bane, the leech, my best friend. And the orb magically pulls his arm out of the concrete, and he's totally fine. So we realize that Eagle is almost like Elric. This is another facet of him. He's got this thing, which makes him very powerful, but it's also trying to take him over. Constantly trying to take over his soul, if you will. So now we're back at the evil guy's compound, and we see Alaric being trained by Daedalus, and that guy Max comes in. And Max starts picking on Alaric. And Daedalus is like, dude, Wolfgar's going to be here any second. I wouldn't do that if I were you. And it's kind of creepy. He's almost kind of being weird and almost coming onto him sexually in a pervy, big daddy way, So, of course, Wolfgar comes in and just starts beating the shit out of him. He does slap. Alaric tries to stop him. The father does slap him. So he's not always tender with his kid. And so now we get a nice little fight between the two. And then Acacia comes in and says, drop it right now. Because Wolfgar was going to kill the guy. And Acacia's like, shut up, Max. Go wipe the blood out before... wipe the blood off your nose before your brains leak out. So I think you almost get the sense here. Acacia's like, yeah, maybe I bet on the wrong horse with this Max guy. Because Max does seem kind of like a lug nut. He's kind of a moron. Here's some cool Doctor Strangey type shit here. He's doing some kind of ritual to heal himself. Now we see the mayor chewing out the councilwoman. And now that I guess they're doing a test on this poison gas, because now they're really going to release it. That was just a distraction, that first bomb. And Wolfgar says, "Hey, Keisha, you're here for the test. Here's the test subject," and it's Max. And she says, "Wolfgar, how could you?" But then she kind of just goes along with it. She just says, "Oh, Max, I guess why not kill you? Kill him." I think it's too late to stop the test anyway, but she really doesn't seem to care. And so the poison, I guess, makes fear, killing fear. Like we see his hallucinations in his head. And he has a heart attack at the end. So it's a deadly gas. And Acacia says, "It's magnificent. It's more than I ever hoped for." She doesn't even care that Max is dead. And then she says, "Yeah, you were right. I guess you and me should be together, and we'll take over this whole city." But then Daedalus pops in on the telescreen and says, Eagle's attacking us. We're under attack." And now we see Eagle going through all these guards like so much paper mache. I don't know why this art is so... some panels are just downright not very good. And yet, overall, I think it's okay. I'm pretty sure that's pure nostalgia. If this was any other comic, I would totally kick it out of the Academy. But I don't know, it just works for me. Who can explain such strange devices? I don't know. And so I guess Eagle goes into this. They force Eagle to go into that gas chamber room. Because I guess they just overpowered him. There's too many soldiers. And it looks like he's done for. But then the police attack. Acacia refuses to leave the poison behind. She's like, "We've worked so hard on this." And Wolfgar slugs her, knocks her out. I mean, he loves her. It's for her own good. He wants her to escape. And Daedalus grabs her and takes her away. Wolfgar wants to hang out to watch Eagle die. He doesn't want to leave until he knows he's dead. But then once again, the orb saves him. And Eagle starts kicking Wolfgar's ass. Some more kind of fun action. And basically the mayor is just like, "Yeah, we're going to nuke that whole place." Just a pocket nuke. He's a really shitty mayor. He doesn't care how many neighbors are going to die or people around. And so the whole place blows up. And everyone thinks Eagle's dead. But he's not. And he shows up at this restaurant where Shivia is eating. Letter page. Craig Brassfield pinup. I think he did stuff for like First Comics, like Backups and Nexus. Then we have Barry Crane, who did a bunch of stuff for First Comics and Epic. Can't remember the name of his Epic comic. But I think his first backup in First Comics was like Blaze Barlow. Little editorial comment about the state of black and whites in 1987. So this is kind of historically interesting. Already the bottom's falling out. And people are pointing fingers at the other comics that suck, that are ruining, the black and white comics field. But they all said that. I think Eagle was a better one. These guys were trying. They weren't just trying to do a quick cash grab. Nice back cover. They were actually trying to make their own character, and but some of those comics were just they were terrible. Like really just shouldn't have never been published. Number 4. So we see these scientists, they're trying to make this portal into the future. And the portal opens, this guy comes out. Now, if you saw this guy, would you just be like, ooh, let's communicate with it? This lead scientist, he says, oh, look, he's trying to make contact with me. And he's got his hands around his head, and then he rips his head off. He's like, yeah, look at that guy. No good's going to come from him. So he kills all the scientists, and now he's on the loose in the city. He escapes from this lab. But right after him, through the portal, before it closes, this guy comes out. And he's a badass. This is a few years after Terminator came out. This is obviously a very Terminator-inspired thing. This is called Death's Dark Angel. I love this weird logo here. It's all of a sudden, it's like some underground comics logo for the deaths. So Eagle is like kind of meditating, and I guess he has some kind of omniscience. He can just see out into the world, and he sees all of this going on. He sees the monster. He sees this guy, his name's Death's Head. We'll find that out later. In fact, he got his own comic for one issue from Crystal Comics, which I owned at one point. I totally bought that. I would have bought anything from Crystal Comics at the time. So Death's Head, very Terminator-like, is just going around, beating up anyone who gets in his way. He does look kind of cool, though. Meanwhile, that monster is running around, killing people left and right. But then Death's Head shows up, and we get a big Donnybrook between these two guys. The design of this alien is very odd. So they're kicking the shit out of each other. And then a bunch of cops show up, and they say, hold it right there, pal. And they just fire into the alley where these guys are fighting. Of course, to no effect. Barely even tickles the monster. And the monster comes down and starts killing all the cops. Now, Eagle tries to confront this Death's Head character, tries to communicate with him. But Death's Head doesn't have time to talk. He's got to chase that monster down. It seems like that's what he was built to do. Once again, he confronts him. They start fighting again. This one's pretty much just a big fight. This issue's a big fight scene for the most part. And then Eagle shows up. He starts attacking the monster. This monster is very hard to kill. Even with all of Eagle's skills, he's having a hard time. He chops his arm off. So Death's Head is unconscious. And Eagle does his little trick again, like entering his brain. And I guess he comes from this future that these aliens have killed almost everyone, all the humans. Corpses stacked high. That's what the image he sees. Doesn't really tell us who Death's Head is, though, this character. So Death's Head bathes the alien in this flammable material. And Eagle jumps out the window because he knows what's coming. And once again, we end the issue with a giant explosion. And Eagle hopes that they're both dead. He waits for a while to make sure no one comes out. But then finally he leaves. And then we look out past the docks. The frozen lake there, we see a hand come out of the river. So we'll see Death's Head again. Letter page. Pin up by this guy, Andrew Murphy, who they claim will be doing some work for Crystal Comics. I wish this guy went on to do stuff. This looks really nice. Just a really nice style. Really nice composition. Nice stuff in black and white. Ads. I did like also how Crystal always had back cover art. They didn't just have some crappy ad. Number 5. they kind of jump around Eagle. Like they had this whole thing going with Acacia and Wolfgar and all this stuff. And now they're just like throwing in all these other kind of story ideas. This is called Where's the Magic? Same creative team. And once again, we see Shivia Myers, the councilwoman. This is her secretary. Very more John Byrne isms going on here. We realize, or she realizes that she can't stop thinking about Eagle after their dinner. So she's kind of smitten, but she also knows it's crazy. So now we're in a prison, and Shivia Myers and that reporter Craig Masters have been called in. I guess some convict wanted to talk to them. He basically he's just like, yeah, the mayor's totally corrupt. He's doing this thing where he's emptying the prisons to save money. Prisoners can't even pay him money to get out of jail. And they bring the guy back to his cell. This little guy. And there's a other convict waiting to shiv him. The guard's in on it too. And he tells him, he says, hey, the mayor doesn't like you using your mouth too much, so I'm going to have to ice you. So we have this whole, conspiracy thing going on with the mayor again. Now we see Shivia walking down the street. She's confronted by the street gang, and they're called the Badgers. They even have that little Badgers thing that the superhero Mike Barron's character had. And they all know martial arts. And they chase her down an alley. Sounds like they're going to do some bad stuff to her. And then this weird guy shows up, like this 7-foot tall dude. Once again, looking like a Terminator or something. And he says, this woman has not led me to the magic one yet. I need to, basically see her. And they're like, fuck you, dude. And so he just starts killing these guys with his bare hands. Super strong. And then finally there's one left. And he kills him too. And as he's dying, he says, Max, Pierre, Emily, Norbert, Larry, anyone help. Which is a total, Badger reference. Mike Barron's Badger. So now we see there's something up with this guy, this big, tall guy. He, the power is coming out of his hands. So he's some kind of entity. We'll find out in a sec. So Shivia just goes back to her office just to nap. She's had too much to deal with. And then that guy, we'll just call him the Giant. The Giant comes in. I think he kills the secretary, or at least injures her, and breaks into Shivia's office. Looks like he's choking her. And that guy, Craig Masters, comes in. And he just kind of runs away. But he says, I gotta go. I'll bring back the police, I promise. Before that, he does say, don't hurt her, I love her. And luckily, Eagle shows up. So Eagle starts fighting the guy. I'm such a sucker for panels like that. That just looks so cool to me. His body language. And Eagle recognizes that he is just a husk, a shell for energy. It's a self-contained reservoir of energy. So he continues to fight him. And it's weird how this guy, even though he's like this almost Terminator type dude, he says kind of goofy things. Like when Eagle kicks him out the window, he says, how embarrassing. He lands in a garbage truck. There's another John Byrne. And he runs back up to the office with the garbage caked all over him. Oh, I almost missed it. Eagle and Shivia's first kiss. God, that face is terrible. And then this creature, this entity, says, I can defeat you on my own turf. and he zaps them both into another dimension, I guess. The cops show up, and they kind of give Shivy a warning, basically like, hey, the mayor doesn't like what you're up to. Doesn't like the fact that you've been hanging out with Eagle. And now we see this other dimension Eagle has been transported to. And this is the entity, what he really looks like. Very goofy. So this guy's almost like Mr. Mixelplicht. He's just like, everything he says is trying to be funny, but he's pretty much omnipotent, almost. It seems like he's omnipotent. And he's attacking Eagle. And to be continued. We got a letter page. We got a pinup by a young Eric Larson. I think Eric Larson probably just started maybe working at Marvel at this point, or right before it. And more ads. And, kind of a boring back cover. Now we have Eagle number 6, the last of the issues we're going to look at today. This is a wraparound cover. Not very impressive, but it is a wraparound cover. And it looks like our poor hero is done for. So now we're back on Earth. We see all these convicts getting released from prison. And I guess the prison's right on a dock, because these guys are on a boat. They're like, the Red Dragon Association wants you. Because all these guys are just out of jail. They don't know what they're going to do. So these guys are just like, join up with us. We need people. And they all do. And I assume we'll find out what happens next issue. I really like this. This is some wicked Ditko, like Doctor Strange isms going on in this page. These almost ribbons. That's one of my favorite pages in all these issues, probably. So this is Eagle before, when he was younger. He's having a kind of a flashback. And he's confronting the orb. The orb is talking to him, and they're almost having an argument. Eagle's like, I own you. I control you. And he's all like, the orb is basically like, nah, you're just, your destiny is to become luggage, my vehicle, my vessel. When Eagle says, I'll die first, I'll kill you, the orb says, what kind of way is that to talk to your mother? So then he wakes up. He's still in the dimension. This character named Kuzlak, that's his name. I really just hate the way he's drawn. I hate his little patter, like his zany, kooky, like he's supposed to be kind of crazy. Basically, this guy, his backstory is he killed everyone on this planet, all of his fellow sentient creatures. So now he's all alone, but now he kind of is lonely, and he's kind of omnipotent. So just like Mr. Mixelplick, I guess he's going to Earth to fuck with things and just to entertain himself. I think he's lived for thousands of years. So he's torturing poor Eagle. He wants the orb. I think the orb, he feels that the orb, he'll be able to escape this dimension permanently or whatever. It'll free him. And he won't be stuck here. Of course, Eagle refuses. He tells him, he's just like, it's not really mine to give. I'm kind of stuck with it. He changes his appearance. I guess Neil Vokes realized just how goofy he looked. He's still goofy looking, but he's got a less goofy outfit on. Now we come back to Earth. Shivya is staying with her mother. Because, she's been so shaken. And she sees this mysterious guy outside the apartment watching for like hours at a time. The mother doesn't see her. She's like, what are you talking about, honey? There's no one there. Now back to the other dimension. And I guess there's self-defense things that the orb has set up. So when Kuzlak tries to just reach in the orb's body and grab it, he loses a hand. So finally, I guess Eagle can release the orb through incredible will. And because Kuzlak threatens, I'm going to start saying Sivya. I don't like this Shivya business. I don't know how it's pronounced, but Sivya, when he threatens her life, he releases the orb. Kuzlak puts it in this little construct, traps it basically. And now we see Sivya is so shaken by all the events of the past days. She calls Craig Masters. And Craig Masters is a total jerk to her. He's got some other girlfriend. I think he's butthurt that he knows that she loves Eagle. So now we see some time has passed, and look at Eagle. He can't live without the orb, and the orb itself is like a sickly color. It's not really doing anything. So Kozlak, who kind of has the brain of a child in a way, he's like, hey, I don't want this anymore. I might as well give it back to you. Shoves it back in his chest. Eagle now has the power to escape. I don't know why he didn't before. And he attacks Kozlak. It's basically a power of magical skill. They're all summoning spells, counter spells. So not well drawn, but so cool looking. It's just like that great fanzine art. Every now and then, like a broken clock, some of those fanzine artists would do a good one, and you're like, oh, that looks cool. So this magical battle continues. This looks like something from a Jim Starlin cosmic comic from the 70s. And Eagle kills the guy. Looks like he just melts him. And then he beams himself back to his apartment in the real world. And unfortunately, now it seems like the orb is more in control of him than ever. And he's like weakened and down on the floor saying, damn you, orb. And now we cut away to the epilogue. And we see now that Wolfgar is dead. Did I tell you about Wolfgar dying? I forgot when it happened. I don't really care. So I guess Wolfgar is dead, or supposedly dead. Maybe he died in one of those explosions. I don't know. So Alaric is now brought by Daedalus, his basically tutor, brought to Acacia's place where she will raise him. Letter pages. Oh, I should say, I like how she even says to be continued. So I guess that's what's going to happen next story arc. Letter pages. And look at this, a pinup by Adam Hughes. This is back when he was doing Maze Agency, which I think Comico published. So that's probably where these guys met. It does seem like they're friends with all these guys. Like Neil Vokes and Rich Rankin kind of knew everyone on the independent comic scene, which is another reason why I just feel like I kind of like these guys. I wish their company worked. But that is some va-va-boom shit, which Adam Hughes is well known for. Ads. And, oh, there's the ad for Death's Head. The first issue, which it was supposed to be a 6-issue miniseries, only made it to 1 issue. That's why I got rid of it years ago. Even though I have nostalgia for these Crystal comics, it totally ended without resolution. So I was like, yeah, the story's never going to end. But it was the same creative team. So there you go, guys. Eagle number 1 through 6. I'm sure many of you are groaning and thinking, why the hell did you show us these? But I can't deny it. I'm not getting rid of them. The heart wants what the heart wants. Though, I don't know. Maybe after I read the next 6, maybe I'll just say fuck it. But I did kind of like reading these again. It was enjoyable. I just brought back all these memories. I just thought Eagle was so cool. And I don't know. I kind of wish there was more of Eagle. Better drawn and better written stuff of Eagle. I think he's a real viable character. So I guess that's it, guys. I guess next time we'll be looking at number 7 through 12. So if you didn't like this episode, don't tune into the next one. I don't think it gets much better. Thanks for watching. And hopefully I'll see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.